Okay, tonight is the 31st of August 2011, and this is the fifth night we're talking on the Dhammapada. Now we come to chapter 21, Pakinaka Vaga, miscellaneous, verse 290. If by renouncing a lesser happiness one may realize a greater happiness, let the wise man renounce the lesser, having regard for the greater happiness. So this one is logical. If you can give up something to get a bigger profit, why don't we do it? So like sometimes people break the precepts to get some little happiness, but in the long run, if they have to suffer for it, then it's not worth it. But if you keep the precept, for example, not indulging in hunting or fishing, then you give up that little pleasure, but you will take rebirth in a more happy realm for a long time, so it's worth it. 291. One who seeks his own happiness by inflicting pain on others, entangled by the bonds of hate, will never be delivered from hate. If we, because of hate, we cause pain to others, then we will receive hate in return. Just like some people, they like to shoot wild boars, and then after they pass away, they're probably reborn as a wild boar to be hunted by others. 292. For those who are arrogant and heedless, who leave undone what should be done and do what should not be done, for them the asavas only increase. 293. Those who always earnestly practice mindfulness of the body, who do not resort to what should not be done, and steadfastly pursue what should be done, mindful and clearly comprehending, their asavas come to an end. These asavas, as I mentioned before, is uncontrolled mental outflows. You can say defilements, but at a deeper level, it is the flow of consciousness. So, if what should be done, we don't do, and what should not be done, we do, then our asavas only increase, our defilements, our suffering only increase. But if we practice what the Buddha tells us to practice, the Noble Eightfold Path, then our asavas will come to an end. We will attain liberation from suffering. 294. Having slain mother, craving, and father, ego, conceit, two warrior kings, eternalism and nihilism, and destroyed a country, sense organs and sense objects, together with its treasurer, ungrieving goes the holy man. 295. Having slain mother, father, two Brahmin kings, suppose two extreme views, and a tiger as the fifth or as the five hindrances, ungrieving goes the holy man. So mother is supposed to be craving, and father the ego, conceit. And the two warrior kings, this eternalism and nihilism, the two extreme views prevalent during the Buddha's time. Eternalism means some people believe that they will live forever and ever, even after they die. And nihilism means annihilationists. They believe after death there's nothing left. Everything is destroyed. So we practice the holy path taught by the Buddha, then we cut craving, ego, conceit, the views of eternalism and nihilism, and then overcome this sense attachment to the sense objects, and attachment and lust, etc. And these two Brahmin kings are the two extreme views. These two extreme views, one extreme is self-tormenting. Those ascetics during the Buddha's time, they like to torment their own body, practice all the austerities to torture themselves. They think by doing that they will they will get rid of their evil karma. The other extreme is indulgence in sensual pleasure. And then the 5 mental hindrances obstruct us from knowing and seeing things as they really are. So if we destroy all this, then we will not have dukkha anymore, suffering. 296. Those disciples of Gotama ever awaken happily, who day and night constantly practice the recollection of the Buddha. 297. Those disciples of Gotama ever awaken happily, who day and night constantly practice the recollection of the Dhamma. 298. Those disciples of Gotama ever awaken happily, who day and night constantly practice the recollection of the Sangha. This Buddha, Dhamma and Sangha are the 3 gems, the 3 precious things in our Buddhist religion. So we always recollect these 3 things, always have reverence for these 3 things. 299. Those disciples of Gotama ever awaken happily, who day and night constantly practice mindfulness of the body. 300. Those disciples of Gotama ever awaken happily, whose minds by day and night delight in the practice of non-harming. 301. Those disciples of Gotama ever awaken happily, whose minds by day and night delight in the practice of meditation. This practicing mindfulness of the body, meditation, is what the monks work. Monks should practice to get out of samsara. And this non-harming, not only monks, also lay people should practice non-harming other beings. 302. Difficult is the life as a monk. Difficult is it to delight therein. Also difficult and sorrowful is household life. Suffering comes from association with unequals. Suffering comes from aimless wandering. Therefore, do not be an aimless wanderer, a pursuer of suffering. So, if we renounce a monk's life, it's not easy. Restricted by so many precepts. We cannot, when we are bored, we cannot go out and go and see a show, or go to the karaoke or something. If you are bored, we just have to tolerate it, fight with it. So, especially a new monk, a person becomes a monk, the first 1 year is a lot of suffering. But if the monk is able to practice well, and then his meditation can come together, he gets a lot of happiness from the meditation, and that makes up for all the physical suffering. Mental happiness is very important. And then worldly people, the household life is a bit different. You have a lot of physical luxuries, but mentally, lay people have a lot of suffering also. Especially when you work, some people, their work, there's a lot of pressure. Just 2 days ago, one of our friends here who has gone back, he was asking me what to do. He can't sleep. At night he can't sleep. So I asked him whether his work got a lot of pressure. He said, yeah, a lot of pressure. So he's got a lot of pressure, so he can't sleep. Also has to do with these blessings. If we lead our life well, skillfully, we don't harm others, and we benefit others, dana and sila. These 2 basic things can give us a lot of happiness. And if we are happy, it's easier to sleep. So even lay life, also there is suffering. That's the nature of life in this world. The Buddha says the nature of life is dukkha. You can't run away from dukkha. As long as we have a body and a mind, that basically is the source of our suffering. The body gives us bodily suffering. The mind gives us mental suffering. So we have to... The body suffering, we cannot do anything about it. It's a natural process of aging. But the mental suffering we can do. If we understand the Dhamma, if we understand the Dhamma well, then we know everything goes according to karma vipaka. So if we understand that, whatever comes, we accept. If we accept, then there's no mental suffering. A lot of people, they cannot accept, that's why they have a lot of mental suffering, and so they can't sleep and all that. 303. He who is full of faith and virtue, and who possesses good repute or reputation and wealth, he is respected everywhere, in whatever land he travels. This wealth should refer to spiritual wealth. So if a person has faith in the Buddha, Dhamma and Sangha, he keeps his precepts, so he has a good reputation and he has spiritual wealth. Wherever he goes, he's respected. 304. The good shine even from afar, like the Himalaya mountains, but the wicked are unseen, like arrows shot in the night. In the suttas we find that if a monk practices well, the devas respect him. And sometimes the devas act as a protector. So even though we don't see them, they see us. So here, virtue shines. In some other verse we read that fragrance of flowers cannot go against the wind. It goes with the wind. But the fragrance of virtue can go against the wind. 305. He who sits alone, sleeps alone, and walks alone, who is strenuous and subdues himself alone, will find delight in the solitude of the forest. This forest monk is a very lonely life. He goes into the forest, he practices alone, has to face the dangers in the forest. Sometimes he might be bitten by a snake, sometimes by wild animals. There's some Western monks practicing in Sri Lanka in the forest. One of them was trampled by this elephant. There's still quite a lot of elephants in Sri Lanka. If they live in the deep forest, they will meet these wild animals. Another American monk, I think, was bitten by a snake. Then he caught the snake, he threw it away, and the snake came back and bit him a second time, and he died. So it's not easy to be a forest monk. It's a lonely life. But if he can attain good states of meditation, then he finds happiness in his mind. Chapter 22, Niraya Vaga, Hell. 306. The false accuser goes to hell. Also one who, having done wrong, says, I did not do it. Men of base actions both, on departing they share the same destiny in the other world. So if a person accuses somebody falsely, and if he does something wrong, he says he does not do it, then he is liable to fall into hell. 307. There are many uncontrolled men of evil character wearing the yellow robe. These wicked men will be reborn in hell because of their evil deeds. So this refers to monks and nuns also. If a person wears the robe as a monk or nun, he's supposed to practice all the precepts, or even not all, the major precepts, and be a sincere monk or nun, otherwise he can fall to hell. 308. It would be better to swallow a red-hot iron ball, blazing like fire, than as an immoral and uncontrolled monk to eat the alms food of the people. So A lot of people think it's attractive to wear the robe, but you have to think carefully. If you wear the robe and you cannot control yourself, the consequences can be very serious. The most important thing in wearing the robe is sincerity. As long as a person is sincere, then he won't cheat people and he won't cheat himself. That's important. Even though some of the minor precepts are not kept, but if the person is sincere, it doesn't matter. In the suttas, the Buddha says that even Aryans can break minor precepts. Only thing is when they break minor precepts, they don't hide them. They are very straightforward. 309. 4 misfortunes befall the reckless man who consorts with another's wife: acquisition of demerit, disturbed sleep, ill reputation, and rebirth in hell. 310. Such a man acquires demerit and an unhappy birth in the future. Brief is the pleasure of the frightened man and woman, and the king imposes heavy punishment. Hence let no man consort with another's wife. So this one, if somebody does something wrong, that he's frightened that he'll be found out. And when he's found out, then the punishment will come, either in this world, in the human world, or hereafter. 311. Just as kusa grass, wrongly handled, cuts the hand, even so a recluse's life, wrongly lived, drags one to hell. 312. Any loose act, any corrupt observance, any life of questionable celibacy, none of these bear much fruit. So, just like this kusa grass is like our lalang. If you pull the lalang carelessly, it will cut your hand. In the same way, if a monk is careless with his life, then it can harm him. 313. If anything is to be done, let one do it with sustained vigor. A lax monastic life stirs up the dust of passions all the more. An evil deed is better left undone, for such a deed torments one afterwards. But a good deed is better done, doing which one does not repent. So if a person becomes a monk, he should not be lax. So he should make effort to practice the path as taught by the Buddha. 315. Guard yourself closely like a border city, both within and without, inside and outside. Do not let slip this opportunity for spiritual growth. For those who let slip this opportunity, grieve and consign to hell. So, when a person practices the spiritual path, he has to guard inside and outside. Outside means objects of sight, sounds, and smells, taste, touch. Has to be careful. And inside is the mind. He has to he has to guard both the outside and the inside, so that he should not allow unwholesome states to arise. 316. Those who are ashamed of what they should not be ashamed of, and who are not ashamed of what they should be ashamed of, upholding false views, these people go to a state of woe. 317. Those who see something to fear when there is nothing to fear, and those who see nothing to fear when there is something to fear, upholding false views, these people go to a state of woe. This being ashamed of what you should not be ashamed of. Sometimes some people, they because of pride, because of ego, if you ask them to do something like like what the monks do, begging for food. They feel very ashamed. But cheating people, they are not ashamed because they think nobody sees. But as I said, whatever you do, the devas know. Whatever you do, the ghosts know. You cannot hide now. So sometimes, there are some lay people, they follow us on Pindabat. And sometimes we get peculiar people. At one time there was one guy, he went with us Pindabat. And then we were standing at the marketplace. We didn't see him, I don't know where he went. Later we found that he went to hide in the toilet of the coffee shop. He felt so ashamed, standing there with us, begging for the food. He went to hide himself. And nothing to be ashamed of. Although monks beg for their food, we never actually beg, because we never open our mouth. We just give people a chance to plant blessings. We just give people a chance to gain merit by giving. We never ask for anything. So in that sense, it's not begging. So in the same way, something should be feared. Some people don't fear, like breaking the precepts. 318. Those who find fault in the faultless and who find no fault in a fault, upholding wrong views, these people go to a state of woe. 319. Having known a fault to be a fault and the faultless to be faultless, upholding right views, these people go to a happy realm. So if a person understands the law of karma vipaka, he has worldly right views. So he can distinguish, he can differentiate what is a fault and what is not a fault. In other words, what is wholesome and what is unwholesome. So if people who don't understand the law of karma vipaka, they have wrong view, and they don't understand this, then they do the wrong things and take rebirth in a woeful plane. Chapter 23, Naga Vaga. This word Naga has basically three meanings. One is the big elephant. Another one is a snake spirit. What we say in Hokkien, we call Chua Chi, Se Ching. So this is one of the heavenly spirits. The third meaning of Naga, sometimes they use the word Naga for a holy man, and that means a hero, or in Chinese we call Ying Xiong. 320. As an elephant in battle withstands arrows shot from bows all around, even so will I endure abuse. There are many indeed who lack morality. 321. A tame elephant can be led into a crowd, and the king mounts a tame elephant. So too, best among humans is the subdued one who endures abuse. This elephant in India, last time they can train the elephants for the king, train the elephant so well that when he goes into battle, is willing to sacrifice his life for the Mahud, the man who looks after the elephant. And when they are shot by arrows from all sides, they just withstand it. And they are poked with spears and all that, they just withstand it. So in the same way, the Buddha says, if a person practices a spiritual path, he should also be like an elephant, endure all the suffering on the spiritual path, even abuse. Sometimes monks, when we walk on the streets, Pindapat and all that, sometimes some people don't like to see monks. Sometimes they say nasty words, some people spit maybe. So we just, as I mentioned before, if wise words are given to us, we can treasure it, we can think about it. But if words from ignorant and foolish people are thrown at us, we just let it go in one ear and go out the other. We don't even think about it. 322. Excellent are well-trained mules, thoroughbred Sindhu horses, and noble tusker elephants, but better still is one who has subdued himself. 323. Not by these mounts, however, can one go to the untrodden land of Nibbana, as one who is self-tamed goes by his own tamed and well-controlled mind. So these well-trained mules, horses and elephants, they can bring us here and there, only in the world, but they cannot bring us very far. But one who has controlled his mind, as the sutta say, a person, an arahant with psychic power, he can fly like a bird. With the flesh body, can fly through the 6 sensual desire heavens, right up to the Brahma heavens. So in the same way, after that, he can also reach Nibbana. 324. Masti during Rat, the tusker named Dhanapalaka is uncontrollable. Held in captivity, the tusker does not touch a morsel, but only longingly calls to mind the elephant forest. This elephant Dhanapalaka is supposed to be a famous elephant, and I think the story goes that when he was brought out of the forest, he was thinking of his blind mother elephant, wanted to take care of the blind mother. So he was not happy, wanted to go back. I think this might be a Jataka story. So Masti means it has a certain smell. During this Rat is the mating season. Elephants during the mating season, they are uncontrollable, very dangerous. They can kill anybody who comes near. So when you put him in captivity, he's not happy, he won't eat anything. He wants to go back to the elephant forest. So there's a very beautiful sutta on the simile of the elephant. The Buddha said, just as a forest elephant, if you want to tame a forest elephant, first you must catch him with another big elephant, and then catch him and then bring him out of the forest. And he will resist, he will never want to come out of the forest because that's his natural home. So he needs a lot of effort to bring him out of the forest. And after he's come out of the forest, before you can tame him, you got to make him eat. So you have to give nice words to the elephant and give him some maybe sugar cane or something that he likes to eat, and coax him. And then if he starts to eat, then the trainer is very happy. He knows that he won't die. And then after that, slowly we'll teach him to maybe lift a leg or lift another leg, and to walk, to stop, and all this training, the whole training, it goes to a very detailed training until he's worthy of the king. He's worthy to go into battle for the king. So in the same way, the Buddha said, if you ask a lay person to renounce to wear the robe, he's extremely reluctant. He will struggle. He will not. Just like the elephant, you want to bring him out of the forest, he will not want to get out of the forest. So in the same way, layman in the concrete forest of the city, you ask him to wear the robes, he will resist. He will not. But if he is finally, he has no choice due to circumstances, maybe the wife passed away or somebody passed away, that he's hurt so much that he decides to wear the robe, and then you have to train him, just like the elephant has to be trained before he's a good monk. So that is a very beautiful simile in the Majjhima Nikaya. 325. When one is sluggish and gluttonous, lazy, rolling around in bed like a fat pig, that sluggard undergoes rebirth again and again. A lot of people, we, especially nowadays, with all the processed food we eat, after a heavy meal, we feel very sleepy. We go and roll on the bed like a pig. 326. Formerly this mind wandered about as it liked, where it wished, according to its pleasure. But now I will thoroughly master it with wisdom, as a mahout controls an elephant in rut. So this mind is like a monkey. Likes to go here, go there. But to control it, the Buddha gave this simile of the hunter who caught 6 animals. And he tied each of the 6 animals with a rope around the neck. And the 6 ropes he tied into a knot and he let them go. And then the 6 animals were pulled in 6 different directions. So the Buddha said there's a normal mind. So if we want to tame it, we got to tie it to one post. So in the same way, our mind is like that, always wandering out. Wants to wander out through the 6 sense doors to see, to hear, to smell, taste, touch, and think. So we have to control it like controlling an elephant. 327. Delight in heedfulness. Guard well your own mind. Draw yourself out of this bog or swamp of evil, even as an elephant draws himself out of the mud. So we have to practice heedfulness to train our mind to pull ourselves out of this unwholesome habits, this swamp, a bog of evil, unwholesome habits. 328. If for company you find a wise and prudent friend, one who leads a good life, you should overcome all impediments and keep his company joyously and mindfully. 329. But if for company you cannot find a wise and prudent friend, one who leads a good life, then like a king who leaves behind a conquered kingdom, or a lone elephant in the elephant forest, you should go your own way alone. 330. Better it is to live alone. There is no fellowship with a fool. Live alone and do no evil. Be carefree like an elephant in the elephant forest. So this is more for a monk. If we lead the holy life, we want good company, wise monk for company. Otherwise, we want to dwell alone. Even for lay people also, you don't want to mix with fools. 331. Blessed are friends when need arises. Blessed is contentment with just what one has. Blessed is merit when life is at an end. And blessed is the abandoning of all suffering. So if you have friends, when you need them, they are beside you. Those are real friends. And it's a blessing to have a real friend. And then it's a blessing to be contented with just what you have and not to think of wanting more. And then it's very blessed when your life is coming to an end and you reflect that you have a lot of blessings or merit, having done good, have avoided evil, benefited people, then you feel secure at the end of life. You're not troubled. But the highest blessing is abandoning of all suffering when we practice the Noble Eightfold Path. 332. Blessed it is to serve one's mother. Blessed it is to serve one's father. Blessed it is to serve the monks. And blessed it is to serve the holy men. The Buddha says there are 4 fields of merit. If you conduct yourselves towards these 4 persons, it is very meritorious. But if you conduct yourself wrongly to these 4 persons, then it's very demeritorious. The first one is the Buddha. The second is the Buddha's disciples, monks and nuns. The third is your mother. The fourth is your father. 333. Blessed is virtue until life's end. Blessed is faith that is steadfast. Blessed is the acquisition of wisdom, and blessed is the avoidance of evil. So it's a blessing if you practice virtue until the end of your life. And also it's blessed if your faith in the Buddha, Dhamma and Sangha is steady, unshakable. And blessed is attaining of wisdom. And blessed is the avoidance of evil. You don't do any wrong, don't harm people. Chapter 24, Tanha Vaga, craving. 334. The craving of a person given to heedless living grows like a creeper. Like the monkey seeking fruits in the forest, he leaps from life to life, reaping the fruit of his karma. 335. Whoever is overcome by this wretched and sticky craving, his sorrows grow like birana grass after the rains. 336. But whoever overcomes this wretched craving, so difficult to overcome, from him sorrows fall away like water from a lotus leaf. 337. This I say to you, good luck to you all assembled here. Dig up the root of craving, like one in search of the fragrant roots of birana grass. Do not let Mara crush you again and again, as a flood crushes a reed. 338. Just as a tree, though cut down, sprouts up again if its roots remain uncut and firm. Even so, until the craving that lies dormant is rooted out, this suffering springs up again and again. So this craving, if we don't control it, it grows wild. When the craving grows wild, then your suffering, your sorrows also multiply like the grass after the rains. So to overcome this craving is very difficult. But if you are able to overcome your craving, then your sorrows don't stick to you, it falls away like water from the leaf. So this last part the Buddha says, you have to dig up the root of craving. How to dig up the root of craving? The root of craving is very deep inside us. So to be able to dig up the root of craving, you have to go very deep inside you, very deep inside your mind. How to do this is by deep meditation. When we attain the jhanas, we go into our mind. When we attain higher jhanas, we go deeper and deeper into our mind. Only then we can dig out. Otherwise, as the saying goes, the spirit is willing but the flesh is weak. 339. The misguided person in whom the 36 currents of craving rush strongly toward pleasurable objects is swept away by the flood of passionate thoughts. 340. Everywhere these currents flow, and the creeper of craving sprouts and grows. Seeing that the creeper has sprung up, cut off its root with wisdom. 341. Flowing in from all objects and watered by craving, feelings of pleasure arise in beings. Bent on pleasure and seeking enjoyment, these people fall prey to birth and decay. We have 6 senses, the eye, ear, nose, body and mind. And we have 6 sense objects, sights, sounds, smells, taste, touch and thoughts. And these 6 sense objects, they are, the Buddha calls Mara's bait. Mara wants to tempt us with beautiful sights, lovely sounds, nice smells, exquisite taste, soft touch, and thoughts. So if we are not careful, these 6 objects will pull us, and our craving for them will grow. So we have to understand the Dhamma. But people in the world, worldly people, they find no other happiness higher than this happiness. So they continue to enjoy worldly pleasures, sensual pleasures. But the Buddha says, you can only let go of these sensual pleasures when you attain a pleasure which is higher than these sensual pleasures. And what is that pleasure? That is the bliss that comes from deep meditation. When we attain high states of meditation, it's a different type of pleasure, and it surpasses worldly pleasure, and it's a lasting pleasure. Worldly pleasure, you just enjoy for a short while, and then you are satisfied for a short while. Then later, you hunger for it again, and then you satisfy yourself for a short while, and then you hunger for it again. But from meditation, the bliss that you attain is deeper, is more, is stronger, and it lasts much longer. And from there, because once you taste that pleasure, then you are contented. You don't seek for worldly pleasures. Worldly pleasures, the difference is that worldly pleasures, when you enjoy, sorrow is the result. But the bliss of meditation, you enjoy, the Buddha says you can indulge in the bliss of jhana, the happiness of jhana. And the Buddha says he encourages his monks to indulge in the pleasure of jhana because it is harmless and it leads to the attainment of the Aryan stages. 242. Beset by craving, people run about like an entrapped hare. Held fast by mental fetters, they come to suffering again and again for a long time. 343. Beset by craving, people run about like an entrapped hare. Therefore, one who yearns to be passion-free should destroy his own craving. So our whole problem in the world, all our suffering is because of craving. Because of craving, we continue on the round of rebirths, suffering again and again. Because when we crave for those things in the world that give us happiness, give us enjoyment, give us pleasure, then there's a tendency to crave for it again and again, be attached to it. But the nature of worldly happiness is such that it is impermanent and also cannot be satisfied, only for a very short while. So if we don't have the wisdom and we yearn for that type of happiness, then we suffer again and again. 344. There is one who had turned away from the forest of desire or lay life, intent on the life of the forest monk. But after being freed from the forest of the lay life, he runs back to that same forest. Come, behold that man. Though freed, he runs back to that very bondage. So there are some people like this. They get some suffering in the lay life, maybe because of stress of work or because of family conflicts and all that, or some other cause, or maybe the breakup of a relationship, and then they decide to become a monk. But after practicing as a monk for some years, there are some people after 5 years they go back to lay life, some after 10, 20, 30, even 40 years wearing the robe, some go back to the lay life. So that shows that they didn't attain right view. If they had attained right view and they would have become an Arya, they would not likely to go back to the lay life. 345 and 346. That is not a strong fetter, the wise say, which is made of iron, wood or hemp, but the infatuation and longing for jewels and ornaments, for children and wives, that the wise say is a far stronger fetter, which pulls one downward, and though seemingly loose, is hard to remove. This too the wise cut off, giving up sensual pleasure, and without any longing they renounce the world. So even iron chain, you tie a person with an iron chain, somehow he can find a way to get out of that chain. But if he's tied inside with the attachment to children and wife and family members and property, that is a far stronger chain. Although unseen, it's extremely hard to cut off. 347. Those who are lust infatuated fall back to the swirling current of samsara, like a spider on its self-spun web. This too the wise cut off. Without any longing, they abandon all suffering and renounce the world. To renounce the lay life is extremely hard. Only when a person understands the Dhamma and is willing to withstand the suffering, then only he can renounce. 348. Let go of the past, let go of the future, let go of the present, and cross over to the farther shore of existence. With mind wholly liberated, you shall come no more to birth and decay. So if you want to cross to the other shore, you must let go of past, all the memories of the past, just let it go, and have no ambition or plan for the future. And even what is at present also, just let go, then only you can cross. 349. For a person tormented by evil thoughts, who is passion-dominated and given to the pursuit of pleasure, his craving steadily grows. He makes the fetter strong indeed. 350. He who delights in subduing evil thoughts, who meditates on the impurities and is ever mindful, it is he who will make an end of craving and rend asunder Mara's fetter. You see, person who is passion dominated and given to the pursuit of pleasure, his craving grows. Nowadays scientists have discovered in our brain we have these, what you call them, neurons, that make, if we do something again and again, it forms a habit pattern in our mind. It's easier to do. Each time you do, it's easier to do. So if we indulge in the pursuit of pleasure, it forms a groove in our mind. It becomes a habit pattern. We always follow it. So to change our habit pattern is extremely difficult. It needs a lot of willpower. And the willpower won't be forthcoming unless the person understands the Dhamma. And also, even understanding the Dhamma also not enough. The mind has to be strong. So you need to practice samatha meditation for the mind to be strong. Then only you can act. And then here, the 350, who meditates on the impurities. This is the unattractiveness or the loathsomeness of the body. If we meditate on the loathsomeness of the body, and always remind ourselves that this body will turn into a corpse very soon. And the corpse will become bloated and smelly and break up. Even the bones will disappear after many years. Then we see impermanence. Then we can slowly let go. 251. He who has reached the goal, fearless, free from craving, stainless, having plucked out the thorns of existence, for him this is the last body. 352. He who is free from craving and attachment, perfect in uncovering the true meaning of the teaching, and who knows the arrangement of the sacred texts in correct sequence, he indeed is the bearer of his final body. He is truly called a profoundly wise one, a great man. So one who has practiced the Noble Eightfold Path to the end, then he has gone to the other shore, and this is his final body. Then he is a really wise person, freed of craving and attachment, and understand the real meaning of the Dhamma taught. 253. A victor am I over all have I known. yet unattached am I to all that is conquered and known. Abandoning all, I am free through the destruction of craving. Having thus directly comprehended all by myself, whom shall I call my teacher? This after the Buddha was enlightened and he met a man, and this man asked him, because this man was very impressed by the Buddha's appearance. The Buddha looked very serene and bright. So this man asked him, who is your teacher? And this is how the Buddha replied. That the Buddha is the greatest conqueror. So how he has no teacher. 354. The gift of the Dhamma excels all gifts. The taste of the Dhamma excels all tastes. The delight in the Dhamma excels all delights. The craving free vanquishes all suffering. So giving of the Dhamma is the highest giving. Giving of material things benefits people only for a short while. You give food to somebody, you only satisfy him for one day. Tomorrow he's hungry again. Or even if you give him a job, then you help him for this lifetime. But if he doesn't understand the Dhamma, then he might be reborn as a ghost, a hungry ghost, or in the animal realm, or in hell and suffer. But if you teach somebody the Dhamma, and he practices the Dhamma and understands the Dhamma, in this very lifetime, he will attain happiness. And for many, many lifetimes after that, he will be happy and not suffer. 355. Riches ruin the foolish, but not those in quest of the beyond. By craving for riches, the witless man ruins himself as well as others. So the foolish people, when you have riches, you are attached to your riches. When you attach to your riches, then it becomes a source of suffering. But those who understand the Dhamma, even lay people, if a layman understands the Dhamma, he might be rich, materially rich, but he may not be attached to it. So in the suttas, the Buddha says sometimes even a person from a very rich family, he can give up everything and become a renunciant. But sometimes if the person is attached to his family and home, he can be a very, very poor man with no property, even be in debt. You ask him to renounce, also he cannot renounce. 356. Weeds are the bane of fields, are the curse of fields. Lust, the bane of humankind. Therefore, what is offered to those free of lust yields abundant fruit. 357. Weeds are the bane of fields, hatred the bane of humankind. Therefore, what is offered to those free of hatred yields abundant fruit. 358. Weeds are the bane of fields, delusion the bane of humankind. Therefore, what is offered to those free of delusion yields abundant fruit. 358, 359. Weeds are the bane of fields, desire the bane of humankind. Therefore, what is offered to those free of desire yields abundant fruit. These three things, lust, raga, hatred, dosa, and delusion, moha, these are the three basic poisons that keep us in samsara. So if a person is free of this lust, hatred and delusion, he's an arahant, and anything offered to him, the merit is boundless. But even those who are partially freed, for example the Aryans, if you offer something to an Aryan, that merit is also incalculable. Chapter 25. Bhikkhu Vaga, the monk. 360. Good is restrained over the eye. Good is restrained over the ear. Good is restrained over the nose. Good is restrained over the tongue. 361. Good is restrained in the body. Good is restrained in speech. Good is restrained in thought. Restraint everywhere is good. The monk restrained in every way is freed from all suffering. 362. He who has control over his hands feet and tongue, who is fully controlled, delights in meditation, is inwardly absorbed, keeps to himself and is contented. Him do people call a monk. So we practice restraint. We don't allow our passions to overcome us. Then we become freed of suffering. Then a good monk is one who delights in meditation, controls himself and is contented. 363. That monk who has control over his tongue is moderate in speech, unassuming, that means humble, and who explains the teaching in both letter and spirit. Whatever he says is pleasing. So a monk who practices the Dhamma and teaches the Dhamma is pleasant. 364. The monk who abides in the Dhamma, delights in the Dhamma, meditates on the Dhamma, and bears the Dhamma well in mind. He does not fall away from the sublime Dhamma. If a person understands the Dhamma, then he delights in the Dhamma. When he reads the Dhamma, he is extremely happy. And such a person who understands the Dhamma would have attained vision of the Dhamma, understanding of the Dhamma, and become an Arya. 265. One should not despise what one has received, nor envy the gains of others. The monk who envies the gains of others does not attain to meditative absorption. 366. If a monk does not despise what he has received, even though it be little, if he is pure in livelihood and unremitting in effort, even the gods praise him. Monk, we are dependent on lay people for the food and other offerings. So whatever we receive, we should not despise. And we should not envy the gains of other monks. What a monk receives is because of his blessings. If a monk has more blessings, he receives more. If a monk has less blessings, he receives less. So only if the monk does not envy others, then his mind can become still. And if he's a good monk, then even the gods will praise him. The gods will notice. 367. He who has no attachment whatsoever for the mind and body, who does not grieve for what he has not, he is truly called a monk. 368. The monk who abides in universal love is deeply devoted to the teaching of the Buddhas, attains the peace of Nibbana, the bliss of the cessation of volitions. To attain the bliss of Nibbana, a person has to give up all desires. When you give up desires, then you don't exercise your will, you don't exercise volition. Volition ceases, you have no wanting at all, then only you can attain Nibbana. 269. Empty this boat, monk. Empty, it will sail lightly. Having cut off lust and hatred, you shall reach Nibbana. If we have a lot of things in our hand, we cannot accept anything more. We have to empty our hand before we can accept something else. So we have to empty all the unwholesome habits and all the unwholesome states in us before we can fill it with all the wholesome states. 370. Cut off the 5, abandon the 5, and cultivate the 5. The monk who has overcome the 5 bonds is called one who has crossed the flood. If you look at the note below, you will understand. The cut off the 5 lower fetters, abandon the 5 higher fetters, and cultivate the 5 faculties. Then you can cross the flood. 371. Meditate, monk. Do not be heedless. Do not let your mind whirl on sensual pleasures. Heedless, do not swallow a red-hot iron ball, lest you cry, when burning. Oh, this is painful. If a person falls into hell, there's a type of hell where that person is swimming in the river, and from exhaustion he reaches the bank. And when he reaches the bank, the guards in hell will come to him and ask him, "How are you?" And he says he's very hungry, very tired and hungry. Then they take an iron, open up his mouth. Two of them, one will pry open his mouth, another will pour this iron ball into his mouth, and this iron ball will go into his mouth, burn his intestines, burn his stomach, burn his colon and all that, and come out. And when he passes out, he will bring some of the intestine out with him also. So he suffers. So in hell, we have a lot of mental suffering plus physical suffering. And then after some time, he's blur. They ask him, "How are you?" Then he says, "I'm very thirsty." And they open his mouth again and then pour molten liquid, iron or what, that's heated so hot until it's liquid. Then they pour that into his mouth. In the same way, it burns his mouth, burns his stomach, burns his intestines, and then it comes out. So this is when he cries, "Oh, this is painful." 372. There is no meditative concentration for one who lacks wisdom, and no wisdom for one who lacks meditative concentration. One in whom are found both meditative concentration and wisdom is indeed close to Nibbana. So these two things are important, concentration and wisdom. And to attain these two, you have to practice the seventh and the eighth factor of the Noble Eightfold Path. The seventh factor, Samma Samadhi, is basically vipassana, contemplating the four objects. And this eighth factor of the Noble Eightfold Path, Samma Samadhi, is basically samatha. 373. When a monk who has retired to a solitary abode and calm his mind comprehends the Dhamma with insight, there arises in him a delight that transcends all human delights. 374. Whenever he sees with insight the rise and fall of the aggregates, the five aggregates, he is full of joy and happiness. To the discerning, this reflects the deathless. So this Dhamma that we learn, we must always reflect on it. When we reflect on it, then we understand more. So like nowadays, we have the Dhamma on CDs and in books. So it's important that we listen to the Dhamma again and again until we die. Or we read the books, the Nikayas, the original suttas, keep reading until we die. The more times we listen or we read, the more we understand. And when you understand, the delight arises. It is, supramundane, transcending worldly delight. 375. Control of the senses, contentment, restraint according to the code of monastic discipline. These form the basis of the holy life for the wise monk here. 376. Let him associate with friends who are noble, energetic, and pure in life. Let him be cordial and refined in conduct. Thus, full of joy, he will make an end of suffering. So a monk should control the senses, practice contentment, keep the precepts and other practices which are found under charana. As I mentioned in the Digha Nikaya talks, under charana, the practice or conduct of a monk, there are 10 things to be practiced. Things like contentment, keeping the sila, moderation in eating, devoted to wakefulness, restraint of the six senses, or guarding the six sense doors, abandonment of the hindrances, seclusion, attainment of the four jhanas. 377. Just as the jasmine creeper sheds its withered flowers, even so, monks, should you totally shed lust and hatred. So lust and hatred is something that we must slowly cut away. 378. The monk who is calm in body, calm in speech, calm in thought, well composed, and who has spewed out worldliness, he truly is called serene. So if a monk guards the three sense doors, body, speech and mind, is no more worldly, then he is serene or tranquil. 379. By oneself, one must censure oneself and scrutinize oneself. The self-guarded and mindful monk will always live in happiness. 380. One is truly one's own protector. One is truly one's own refuge. Therefore, one should control oneself even as the trader controls a noble steed. So, in the spiritual path, we have to depend on ourselves and depend on the Buddha's Dhamma. That's the way to practice. Nobody can help us. The Buddha says, even the Buddha cannot help us. He only helps us by teaching us the Dhamma. We have to walk the way ourselves. 381. Full of joy, full of faith in the teaching of the Buddha, the monk attains the peaceful state, the bliss of cessation of volitions. 382. That monk who, while young, devotes himself to the teaching of the Buddha, illuminates this world like the moon freed from a cloud. So if a person practices the spiritual path while he's still young, it's much more convenient because he's still strong. He can strive, he can stay in the forest and all that. But when a monk becomes old, for him to live alone in the forest with all the he'll get all the aches and pains all over his body. It's very difficult to practice, and he won't have the strength also to keep awake most of the night. So when we are young, we should practice. A lot of people think, wait until I'm old. When you're old, you have no more strength to practice. Chapter 26, the last chapter, Brahmana Vaga. Brahmana refers to the holy man or the religious man. This verse 383, I think is is from the Tayana Gatha. Tayana Gatha is the verses of the Deva Tayana. He spoke these verses to a monk. Exert yourself and cut off the stream of craving. Discard sense desires, O religious man. Having known the destruction of volitions, become a knower of the uncreate, O religious man. So he's telling the monk to practice hard, cut the stream of craving, cut off desires also to attain Nibbana. 384. When a holy man has reached the summit of the two paths, he knows the truth and all his fetters fall away. These two paths must be samatha and vipassana, as I mentioned. 385. He for whom there is neither this shore nor the other shore, nor yet both, who is free of cares and is unfettered, him do I call a holy man. 386. He who is meditative and stainless, settled, and whose work is done, free from the asavas, having reached the highest goal, him do I call a holy man. So the real holy man has finished his work, destroyed the asavas, the uncontrolled mental outflows, and he has no more wants. So he doesn't think of this shore or the other shore, or anything. 387. The sun shines by day, the moon shines by night, the warrior shines in armor, the holy man shines in meditation, but the Buddha shines resplendent all day and all night. When we meditate, and if we get a good meditation, light will come forth from inside of us. That's why the holy man shines in meditation. 388. Because he has discarded evil, he is called a holy man, a Brahmana. Because he is serene in conduct, he is called a recluse, Samana. And because he has renounced his own impurities, he is called a renunciate, Pabaja, Pabajito, Pabajita. So, holy man has discarded evil, a recluse is serene in conduct, and a real renunciant has renounced his impurities, his unwholesome states. 389. One should not strike a holy man, nor should a holy man, when struck, give way to anger. Shame on him who strikes a holy man, and more shame on him who gives way to anger. So this is Samana Dhamma, the Dhamma of a monk, how a monk should behave. When anger is given to him, he should not retaliate. But that is very difficult to do. Very, very difficult to do. So if a monk can do it, it's a real monk. 290. Nothing is better for a holy man than when he holds his mind back from what is endearing. To the extent that thoughts of harming wear away, to that extent the suffering subside. So what is endearing, what is pleasant for a monk? He should know the danger, hold himself back, and also anger and harming, he has to cut away also. 391. He who does no evil in deed, word and thought, who is restrained in these three ways, him do I call a holy man. So he does no evil in the three ways, the three karmas, deed, word and thought. 392. Just as a Brahmin priest reveres his sacrificial fire, even so should one devoutly revere the person from whom one has learned the Dhamma taught by the Supreme Buddha. So if you learn something from a person on the Dhamma, you should appreciate. 293. Not by matted hair, nor by lineage, nor by birth does one become a holy man. But he in whom truth and righteousness exist, he is pure, he is a holy man. 394. What is the use of your matted hair, witless man? What of your garment of antelope's hide? Within you is a tangle of passion, only outwardly do you cleanse yourself. So a lot of people from the outside, they look like a monk, look like a holy man. But what is important is not the outside, it's the inside. 395. The person who wears a robe made from rags, who is lean, with veins showing all over the body, and who meditates alone in the forest, him do I call a Brahmana, a holy man. So a person who is serious about the holy path, he lives alone in the forest. 396. I do not call him a holy man because of his lineage or his high-born mother. If he has impeding attachments, he is just a supercilious man. But he who is free from impediments and clinging, him do I call a holy man. You see here, because of lineage, nowadays some monks, they are very proud, they belong to a certain lineage. But here the Buddha says that is not important at all. Your monk's lineage or your parents' lineage, all that is not important. What is important is to cut off the impurities inside, the clinging. That is important. 397. He who, having cut off all fetters, trembles no more, who has overcome all attachments and is emancipated, him do I call a holy man. So if we have cut off our attachments, and we have no attachments, then we tremble no more. Whatever happens, we are not attached. 398. He who has cut off the thong of hatred, the band of craving, and the rope of false views, together with the appurtenances, latent evil tendencies, he who has removed the crossbar, ignorance, and is enlightened, him do I call a holy man. Not easy to do all this. 399. He who, without resentment, endures abuse, beating, and punishment, whose power, real might is patience, him do I call a holy man. This patience or forbearance is, the Buddha calls the highest austerity. It's hard to practice. 400. He who is free from anger, devout, virtuous, without craving, self-subdued, bearing his final body, him do I call a holy man. If he is bearing his final body, he's Arahant already. 401. Like water on a lotus leaf or a mustard seed on the point of a needle, he who does not cling to sensual pleasures, him do I call a holy man. So sensual pleasures does not attach to him, and sensual pleasures fall off like water from a lotus leaf for this holy man. 402. He who in this very life realizes for himself the end of suffering, who has laid aside the burden and become emancipated, him do I call a holy man. This burden refers to the burden of the 5 aggregates, body, feelings, perception, volition, and consciousness, which is basically body and mind. The ordinary person carries this burden of the self in the body and the mind. 403. He of profound knowledge, wise, skilled in discerning the right path and the wrong path, who has reached the highest goal, him do I call a holy man. This profound knowledge is not worldly knowledge, it's the knowledge of the Dhamma. 404. He who holds aloof from householders and ascetics alike, and wanders about with no fixed abode, and but few wants, him do I call a holy man. This is aloofness, a person who is serious on the holy path. He is aloof from lay people, and is also aloof from other monks. 405. He who has renounced violence towards all living beings, weak or strong, who neither kills nor causes others to kill, him do I call a holy man. This one does not harm any living being at all. 406. He who is friendly amidst the hostile, peaceful amidst the violent, and unattached amidst the attached, him do I call a holy man. 407. He from whom lust and hatred, pride and contempt have fallen off like a mustard seed from the point of a needle, him do I call a holy man. All these unwholesome habits and states he has discarded. 408. He who utters gentle, instructive and truthful words, who imprecates none, him do I call a holy man. Buddha says a good speech has a few characteristics. It must be truthful, it must be beneficial, it must be spoken gently, it must be spoken with a mind of loving kindness, and it must be spoken at the right time. The right time. For example, when a person is angry, don't try to give him advice, he won't accept him. 409. He who in this world takes nothing that is not given to him, be it long or short, small or big, good or bad, him do I call a holy man. 410. He who wants nothing of either this world or the next, who is desire-free and emancipated or liberated, him do I call a holy man. He has no self, so he has nothing that he wants. 411. He who has no attachments, who through perfect knowledge is free from doubts, and has plunged into the deathless. Him do I call a holy man. 412. He who in this world has transcended the ties of both merit and demerit, who is sorrowless, stainless and pure, him do I call a holy man. Since he has no more self, so he is not attached to merit or demerit. 413. He who, like the moon, is spotless and pure, serene and clear, who has destroyed the delight in existence, him do I call a holy man. 414. He who, having gone beyond this miry, perilous and delusive round of existence, has crossed over and reached the other shore, meditative, calm and free from doubt, who by clinging to nothing has attained to Nibbana, him do I call a holy man. 415. He who, having abandoned sense pleasures, wanders about as a homeless one, who has destroyed both sensual desire and continued existence, him do I call a holy man. 416. He who, having abandoned craving, wanders about as a homeless one, who has destroyed both craving and continued existence, him do I call a holy man. 417. He who, having cast off the human bond and transcended the celestial or heavenly bond, is delivered from all bondage, him do I call a holy man. So there's no more desire to be a human or even to be a deva or devi. 418. He who, having cast off like and dislike, has become tranquil, rid of the substrata of existence, a hero who has conquered all the worlds, him do I call a holy man. There's no more like and dislikes. 419. He who in every way knows the death and rebirth of beings and is totally detached, blessed and enlightened, him do I call a holy man. He knows the death and rebirth of beings because he has the divine or heavenly eye, and he can see how beings take rebirth according to karma. 420. He whose track no gods, no angels, no humans can trace, the Arahant who has destroyed the asavas, him do I call a holy man. When an Arahant passes away, the consciousness does not continue, so he has no tracks, nobody can trace where he has gone. 421. He who clings to nothing of the past, present and future, who has no attachment and holds on to nothing, him do I call a holy man. 422. He, the noble, the excellent, the hero, the great sage, the conqueror, the passionless, the pure, the enlightened, him do I call a holy man. 423. He who knows his former births, who sees heaven and hell, who has reached the end of births and has attained to the perfection of supernormal insight, the sage who has reached the summit of spiritual excellence, him do I call a holy man. Okay, that's the end of the Dhammapada. Anything to discuss? Just now outside somebody asked me about eating meat and all that. I asked her, why don't you come here and ask? She says, it's shy. Actually, a lot of people have the same questions, so don't have to be shy. So you can just ask anything. Pangse or liberation of animals is not mentioned by the Buddha. The way nowadays people do, they go all out of their way to go to the market and buy all those things. Seems a bit unusual and also may not be really beneficial. Because you see, like Brickfield's temple or Mahavihara, many years ago, the chief monk used to, every time Vesak day comes, they will release a lot of birds. Then after many years, one of the devotees told him, said he notices every time Vesak comes, they catch a lot of birds. So there's a lot of birds in stock at the pet shop. In other words, they know you're going to buy, so they catch all these birds. So after that, they decided not to release these birds because it defeats the purpose. I've been practicing Mahayana for 9 years, and I've seen a lot of this liberation of animals. And several times I saw they release these birds which have been in the cage for so long, and they can't find their food. Either they are so weak from not exercising their wings that they can't fly. In which case, when you release them, they are eaten up by cats and dogs and all that. And I've also seen some, they managed to fly 10 feet, another one managed to fly 20 feet. The next day, the one 10 feet one fell to the ground. 2 days later, the one 20 feet up there also fell to the ground. Why? Because they didn't know how to look for food. They've been in the cage for so long. They don't know how to look for food. They've been used to people feeding them. So when you release them, you are not doing them a favor. You are actually killing them. So also I've seen some, at one time they released a lot of tortoises. That time when I was in America, they released a lot of tortoises. But the place where they released, that river, was not suitable for the tortoises. A few weeks later, you can find many of the shells dead. So, on the other hand, if you happen to see somebody about to slaughter an animal, and then out of compassion, you tell him, I buy from you, don't slaughter the iguana or what. Then you buy and then you bring, you must bring it to a suitable place, Don't simply release it. 20 over years ago, I was in a Mahayana temple in Penang, and they brought a big python, asked the monk to release it. And the monk said, Xiao, we mana how to release in Penang. So I asked him to bring to the Baling forest to release. It's true, how you expect the monk to release in Penang? Either eat somebody's dog or it might be killed by somebody. It's not its natural home. You must release it at the proper place. It's nowadays because the Mahayanis, they always say they want to practice the way of compassion and Bodhisattva path and all these things, so they like to do all these things. But you think carefully, you release these animals and all that, and then even the fact that they are born as animals, it means that the karma is no good already, right? They have to suffer. But this because people don't understand, the compassion must come together with wisdom. If your compassion doesn't come together with wisdom, you'll be doing things that were practiced by external sect ascetics during the Buddha's time. The Buddha mentioned some of this. The Buddha said some of these external sect ascetics, when they go and beg for their food, and somebody wants to give them food, and then they see a lot of flies around, then they think in their head, if I take this food, the flies have no food to eat, so they refuse to eat, to take. Then he go off to another house. Then when he goes to another house, this woman about to give him food might be carrying a newly born baby. Then he think to himself, if I take the food, then this woman will have less food to eat, then she will have less milk to give the baby. Then he refused to take. And then he go to another house. And if he goes to another house and somebody wants to give him food, he sees some dogs around. And he think, if I take this food, the dogs will have less food to eat. Then he refused to take. All this is compassion without wisdom. So, if you practice compassion, must be tempered with wisdom. So just now I didn't finish that these animals, because their karma is such that they are born in the animal world to suffer. So even if you don't release them, they suffer. And when they suffer, it's natural. It's they are using up their bad karma. Not that you are encouraging them to suffer, but it's their karma. So even if you help them and they haven't worked out their karma, they'll be born again and again to suffer. Understand? Just like you cannot go to hell and go and help the beings out of hell. They haven't paid for the evil they have done. If you help them out of hell, if they come into the human world, they might still do a lot of evil. They might kill you. They might not be grateful that you brought them out of hell. They might kill you first. This is because they have not changed their mindset that they are still in hell. Hell is there for a purpose, A lot of people never think, why is there hell? Hell is there for a purpose. Hell is actually made by our own mind. The whole world is made by our mind. When we do something wrong, our conscience makes us suffer, and we have to suffer. It's a law of karma vipaka. If you don't suffer, you don't xiao gyap, you don't get rid of your bad karma. Okay?
After suffering, I cannot sleep. The whole night, going here, going there.
Say again.
After suffering, we observe the suffering, but our brain is very disturbing, confused, cannot sleep, right? The whole night I'm going here, going there, right?
But you don't explain very well who is suffering and why is there suffering? Who made him suffer?
Job, pressure, suffering, right? So when you let go also, takut worry.
But it doesn't seem to have much to do with what we are talking about, liberation. Are you asking a question or what?
Just talk of suffering, right? When we suffering, our brain always negative, right? Confused. So even though they cannot sleep also, right? Pressure, depression. So want to let go also with worry, family problem, right? Children, how is it, education, right? That is what we mean. Because the suffering we observe also. They are sharing.
What is this attachment? Attachment to family, that's why you have to suffer for it, no?
Since you have touched on the topic of compassion, I think I have heard it or read somewhere about compassion, previous life of Buddha, where he was still a bodhisattva. What he did is actually when seeing a tiger having a baby, out of compassion, the bodhisattva cut off his flesh and feed to the tiger. And this for one case, one occasion. And another occasion is in one previous life, the bodhisattva of Buddha himself giving away his wife and children. Is that actually stated in the early Nikaya?
That story with Santara Jataka and the other Jataka, where the bodhisattva, it seems he saw this tiger so hungry, no milk to feed the cubs. So this bodhisattva jumped from the top of the hill, committed suicide to feed the tiger. That is compassion without wisdom. And it contradicts the teaching of the Buddha. You must remember these Jatakas were actually folk tales. It seems these Jataka stories were already in existence before the Buddha was enlightened. It was just like grandmother stories that we tell children. And in those, at that time, these Jatakas, there was no mention of the Bodhisattva, no mention of the Buddha at all. Then after the Buddha was enlightened and hundreds of years later, people used these stories for the Buddha and said that in the Buddha in his past life, he was a Bodhisattva, was born as a human being or born as a deer and all these things from where we get the Sangkanchil stories So all these are grandmother stories and they cannot be real because they contradict the Dhamma. The Buddha says a good person's dana, offering, must not harm himself and must not harm others. Okay, so when he commits suicide, he jumps down. He's not only harming himself, killing himself, he's harming the whole family. If the whole family finds out that he committed suicide, they would, maybe some of them may even go mad. Too much attachment to him. Just like when I first came out to work, I had a friend, he just got married, and in his work he has to travel in his car. So he had a car accident and passed away. And the wife, just at that time pregnant, and was so overcome by suffering, the wife became mad. So you see, when you kill yourself, somebody is attached to you, the mother or father might go mad. So you cause suffering not only to yourself, to your family members. Even this Vesantara Jataka, where the Bodhisattva is supposed to have given away the wife, the 2 children to this heartless beggar. He knows the beggar is going to torture them, going to beat them and all that. Still with tears in his eyes, he's supposed to have given it away. Why? Because he wants to cultivate the parami of giving. This is very selfish. Just because you want to become a Buddha, you make your wife and your children suffer. What kind of Buddha is this? Which this is not Posat law, this is Thosat law. So this makes no sense. The Buddha says, good man's offering must not harm yourself, must not harm others. So it just flies in the face of logic, flies in the face of the Dhamma. If you tell this to a person of another religion, he say your Buddhism is xiao. Asking the person to give up his life for the tiger. No logic.
Last question. Lord of Ego is on behalf of this leader to this lyrical she's trying. Anyway, dear Rampe, here's a question. Why no eating solid food after 1 p.m.? What is the rationale?
It is not no eating solid food. A lot of people misunderstand. The Buddha, because in the spiritual path, if we eat 3 meals a day, then you can become fat, and you can become sleepy a lot of the time, lazy. So being slim is good for spiritual practice, not too slim. So the Buddha allowed breakfast and lunch. But later when the Buddha went to a certain place, he saw that place was a poor place. And the monks, because they beg for their food, they get very poor food. Just at one time, many years ago, I was staying in Mukdahan, near to Laos. For 3 weeks I stayed there. The people were so poor that we go on Pindabat, we come back with what? Frog, Not the one in the paddy field, but real frog, toad with the rough skin, and then beetle, a fried beetle to eat, and then a snail. When you bite the snail, crab. Not easy to bite. And then rat, snake, all these things. So eating every day is a torture. Luckily, we have to eat only 1 meal a day. 3 meals cannot tahan. So I forgot the point already. What was the question? Okay, sorry. So this is one very good reason for one meal. So actually we are allowed 2 meals, breakfast plus lunch as well as we eat in the morning. So the reason why the Buddha says we should eat after dawn is because before the Buddha made the rule, before it's light, the monks go on alms round. So in the darkness, there's one time a lady was standing beside the well taking water. And this monk standing quietly beside her, not uttering a sound. When she turned around, she thought it was a ghost. She shouted in fear. Then after that she realized it's a monk. She cursed him. Why are you standing here begging for your food? You don't have food, you better cut open your stomach. Don't have a stomach rather than you have to beg for your food and all these things. So when the Buddha heard this, I said, when it's dark, don't go around like a prowler. Only after the sun comes up. That means for us after 7 a.m. And then we are only allowed to bake up to noon, the highest, when the sun is the highest, which is about 1 something in this country. So during that period we can eat. So we can eat basically breakfast plus lunch. And 2 meals is quite sufficient. And if a monk has to eat 3 meals a day, then he goes not only baking in the morning, he has to bake in the afternoon again. It's a burden on lay people. Lay people to give even once a day is quite a strain already. So the Buddha came to a place, he saw that the monks were not well fed. They were very thin and the veins standing out and all that, and looking very unhealthy. So when he found out the reason, the Buddha decided a few things can be taken by a monk even at night. And these things are called medicinal allowances. And these medicinal allowances, there are basically 2 or 3 types. One is called the 5 medicines. 5 things. One is butter. This butter in Thailand they interpret also as cheese. Okay, and then ghee. Ghee is another one. And then various types of oil, fish oil, lard, bear oil, alligator oil, all this japo give you strengthen your body. It's a tonic. Then the 4th is all kinds of sugar, sweets and all that, molasses, everything. And the 5th is honey. Honey. So these are the 5 allowances. And then on top of that, the Buddha allowed what are called lifetime allowances, medicinal fruits. Medicinal fruits include like olives, kana, and then this even like this yukam, what do you call it, umbilica, yukam, and then even this ambra, I think, ambra, and then in Malaysia I would consider like this buah pala, nutmeg, ku hong gets rid of wind. So these all can chew one, so these are considered medicinal fruits. You are allowed any time of the day or night. You can keep also. And then medicinal roots like quinoa, turmeric, ginger, turmeric, ginseng, all the various types of medicinal roots. And then medicinal leaves also, like peppermint, poho, daun kadok, a few types herbal, neem, all this. And then supplements like vitamins, all those can. So there are quite a number of things that are allowed at night, just to make you stronger but not make you fat.
What is not sufficient? Isn't short days sufficient?
Yes, short hair is permitted up to, I don't know, I forgot, I have to check the Vinaya books, I think 1 or 2 inches. So, like certain monasteries, they shave once a month. Here we shave once in 2 weeks, just before the chanting of the Patimokkha.
Recently in Penang, they organized this tour to help. What is your opinion of this tour to help? Can we really go down the hill to see what's happening?
I don't know about this. Can you explain?
Last weekend at Padang Ground, they had some ceremony to bring people to help.
What kind of ceremony?
It's called a tour to help. It's organized by which group?
By who? Organized by who?
I don't know which group it is, but we know that they put up shades and everything to bring people on a tour to help.
Is it by chanting or what?
I think so. Looks like it's they say it's very popular in Taiwan nowadays.
Or maybe because they believe in this medicine master Buddha, asking the medicine master Buddha to give health to everybody.
So he blindfold them, he put an amulet inside the blindfold, and he bring back the journey down to hell.
Put amulet where?
They put the tool, and then they blindfold them.
Oh.
And with some chanting, he took them the journey down to hell. A tour, sorry, to hell.
So do they actually see hell?
From the people that I met, they said that some they see waterfall like Niagara Falls. Oh, they're very nice things. They see things, but they cannot reach it, you know. Yeah, I forgot. Yeah. But nothing scary,
And apparently you pay for it. Yes, apparently you pay for it.
Nowadays, there's a lot of these things. You have to be very careful because it is possible they use occult. You can use the occult. Kuikia. So you have to be very careful. I've heard of a few cases where this thing happened. Yeah. Oh. Oh, want to contact the dead relatives during the ghost festival. This is not part of Buddhism. What is Buddhism is only in the Nikayas. If it's not in the Nikayas, it's not Buddhism. This is all the rituals and all that. So if you get interested in all these things, you are not practicing Buddhism. You are going off the track already. In the original Buddha's teachings, our relatives have passed away. We cannot help them. But we can do a little for those in the ghost realm. And I believe because the ghosts are the only ones that come back. If your relative is born as a ghost, usually he is suffering and he comes back and he wants you to know and wants you to help. So some people, they hear footsteps. After their relative have passed away, they hear somebody walking at night but they can't see. Or the door is open and closed by itself, the window open and closed, or the light open and closed by itself. In which case, you can only help them in a little way, that is by giving them food, either directly placing the food outside the house, outside the gate, or you do charity and transfer the merit to them. And the best is before you do the charity or the dana, you inform them. And if you want to inform, you better inform all your relatives in the ghost realm. Because according to the Buddha, we have many, many relatives in the ghost realm waiting for help. So only those, because they come back, we can help them. And also in a small way. You cannot bring them out of the ghost realm. Imagine, if you can chow tu, you can bring these beings out of the ghost realm or out of hell. Then the Buddha must be a stupid fellow. Why the Buddha didn't do it? The Buddha has all the psychic power that anybody can have. And if the Buddha is so compassionate and he didn't do this, you must scold him. But the fact is that the Buddha says nobody can help. Why? Because the whole world is just a dream. Because of our bad deeds, our mind makes us see we are having a nightmare. We are having a nightmare and we think we are in hell. Suppose a person is dreaming at night, he's having a nightmare. Can you help him? You cannot help him. He has to wake up. Isn't it? So in the same way, the Buddha's way of helping us is telling us to wake up. The Buddha is the awakened one. We are all dreaming. Samsara is a long dream, one dream after another. That's why the Buddha says consciousness is a maker of this great show, Tuahi. Consciousness makes us see ourselves as the hero, as a human being, or the main star in the human realm, or in the Deva realm, or in the hell realm, and all that. Just as when you dream at night, who's the most important man in the dream? It's you, So in the same way, when we are in samsara, the most important person in samsara, we keep dreaming we are the most important person. Oh, you cannot think, cannot control your last thoughts. A lot of people think at the last moment, I'm going to chant Amitahut, then Amitahut will bring me to the pure land. No such thing. Why? Because when you are dying, after some time, your consciousness the 6 sense organs will stop one by one. Your eyes will stop seeing. Your nose will stop smelling, your taste buds will stop working, and your touch will stop, and then your hearing will stop. The last to stop is the mind. But before the mind stops, you will reach a state where the breathing stops and the heart stops. When that happens, the doctor will say, oh, this person, Si Liao, is dead. But that is clinical death. And clinical death is not real death. So a doctor pronounces the patient is dead, but he will still live another 1 or 2 hours. During this 1 or 2 hours, the mind will continue to work. That time you have no control. You cannot think of Amitahut and all these things because at that time, what you think of is your natural frequency, depending on your karma. If your heart is a good heart, always thinking of helping people, then you'll be thinking good thoughts. If you are a violent person, those thoughts you are thinking, you are violent thoughts. So those thoughts will bring you to rebirth according to your karma. The violent person will be reborn in the animal realm. The evil person will be reborn in hell. The good person will be born in heaven or the human world. So like several years ago, one Penang devotee told me the mother died of cancer. At the last moment when the doctor said that she is dead, her face was in pain because she died of cancer. The body was in great pain. So the whole face was in pain. But 1 hour later, she told me the mother's face changed to be so happy, so bright, so smiling. That shows her last thoughts during that 1 hour were good thoughts. She had a good heart. So the fact that you see her, the face so smiling and so happy, that means she's gone to a good place. So those thoughts, no control. We like to think we can control our thoughts. So the Mahayanis also say, Liam Omitofut. And then the Abhidhamma people will say, your last thought, you must think of good thoughts and all these things. But not what the Buddha says. Nowadays, what people are practicing, Buddhists are practicing, is so far from the Dhamma, so very far. Not the Dhamma at all, and they think it's the Dhamma. Not Buddhism at all. Come, got some doubts, you better ask.
White, blue, or yellow. So it seems I was told that a certain light, especially red, you better touch.
No such thing. What happens usually you find people, if they are going for a bad rebirth, what they see is very frightening. I've heard of some people, their relative passing away, the eyes suddenly open so big because they see something so frightening. But in many cases, 1 or 2 days before they die, the other world will start surfacing already, and they will see. And sometimes they will start behaving as though they are in that other world. Like many years ago, one lady told me, the father, just a few days before he died, he walked all over the house like an animal on all fours. Then he go outside, he bring a lot of rubbish into the room. And they asked him, what are you doing? Where are you going? Then he says, he's going back to the dog house. So probably reborn as a dog. And there was another lady in Telok Intan. When she died, just a few days before she died, she kept crying. They asked her why. She said, why? Who took away all my clothes? I have no clothes to wear. But everybody saw that she was fully clothed. That shows she's going to probably take birth in the ghost realm. No clothes to wear. So they asked me, this lady has been chanting Amitavud for 30 over years. How come? So I said, she only chant only. She never changed her heart. When we practice the Dhamma, we have to change our habit patterns. Keep our sila, be generous, have a good heart. But a lot of people like this, when they think this Amitabha Buddha going to help them or Kuan Yin going to help them, then they cling on to that and they don't want to practice on their own. But the Buddha's teaching is that nobody can help you. If you don't swim, you're going to sink. So you better help yourself. That's why the Buddha said, be a lamb unto yourself, be a refuge unto yourself, with no other refuge. Take the Dhamma as your lamb, take the Dhamma as your refuge, with no other refuge. Only the Buddha, the Dhamma can guide you. But with the Buddha, the Dhamma as your guide, you have to walk the path, you have to make all the effort. No other person can help you. If there's any other being that can help you, there'll be no beings in hell already, there'll be no beings in the ghost realm, there'll be no beings in the animal realm. So many Buddhas have come, so many Bodhisattvas have come. Why nobody doing their work? The Bodhisattvas must be sleeping. Yeah, that's one of our devotees told me, the auntie, 2 days before she died, long Dracula teeth came out. But after she died, then the teeth disappeared. That means she had already taken the form of that ghost, the fierce ghost, because her character was very fierce, always angry.
After it passed away, the teeth disappeared.
The teeth disappeared.
Animal rank. How long when one animal rank we can also do?
You only suffer, pay back your karma. And how many times you are reborn in the animal realm depends on your karma. For example, a person he likes to shoot wild boar. He might be reborn as a wild boar many times to be shot. Don't worry, you will never be reborn as a black ant. Because as a human being, we have evolved to a high state. I don't believe as a human being you can reborn as a cockroach or as a tick or as an ant. The mental level is not the same. You can be reborn as a buffalo. If you are a goo cat, you act like an animal, you'll be born as an animal. But animals, although you see they are simple-minded, some of them are like dogs. They have a bit of a human nature, You have a dog. Sometimes when we play certain Dhamma CDs, it has some old Chinese music. Some memory will make him howl. Maybe he used to be a China playboy and reborn as a dog. Somebody has a heart attack and no, you won't know. Now why do you want to know? Know yourself.
Asking on behalf of another sister, she asked whether we can speak about it. Nowadays, thì bằng sáng đấy đó, đó họ để tuyên truyền thì giờ lui giờ thì cái đó họ, they go to the market and they buy or whatever, and then they go back and take all the delivery. So how do you protect yourself from this? How does it happen and how do you protect yourself from this?
This thing happens because nowadays a lot of people, they dabble with the occult. I speak in English first. This thing happens because nowadays a lot of people use occult, use spirits. So when you look at that person, you are hypnotized. And then this lady, even one of our devotees, she met this lady like that. And then after being hypnotized, she went back to her house, took out all the jewelry and gave it to that woman. And then the woman gave her something, asked her, don't open until you go home. Then when she went home, she opened, she found tomato or something like that. So today, she is symbol. Our mind is not strong, you get controlled by this spirit. So you have to make your mind strong. Don't think so much. Women think a lot, that's why their mind is not strong. When you have nothing to do, you must chant Namo Buddhaya, Namo Buddhaya, Namo Buddhaya. Keep chanting so that your mind is concentrated. Women usually get into these problems because women minds very scattered. Women worry too much, that's why they think so much.
Just now, you look at the matter of so much about control, absolute control. So how do we then, if they are controlling so much inside us, how do we express it out so that we can have better mental health?
Better what?
So that we can heal, when we control, some people are
Actually, all that control is for monks, not for you.
Yeah, but still we need to control our anger, we need to control our words, our actions, you know. And if we do so much of controlling, how do we fight for our rights? And also, how do we fight for our rights? Like, there's also a verse that I think I read with somebody wants to take away from us, we give. So when I was discussing that with my children, they were saying that, don't when the people become a law, we give it to the people. You know, that kind of things, like how do we practice our rights if there's so much of control?
This one you have to listen to the Dhamma more, and then you will get the guidance there. The Buddha says the spiritual path goes one way, the worldly path goes the other way. So it's difficult to combine the two. So you have to use your wisdom. You want to walk the middle path. And unless your foundation on the Dhamma is very good, you won't be able to know what to do. So you have to listen more to the Dhamma talks. Shall we end here?